Hi class, hi Dale. I am Shi Zhang and today my group and I will be discussing reliability and hard drive failures. What is reliability? Well, reliability engineering emphasizes the dependability in the lifecycle management of a product. Dependability, reliability describes the ability of a system or component to function under stated conditions for a specified period of time. Mathematically speaking, assuming that an item is performing its intended function at time equals 0. Reliability can be defined as a probability that an item will continue to perform its intended function without failure for a specified period of time under stated conditions. The goal of reliability engineering is to evaluate the inherent ability of a product or process and pinpoint potential areas of reliability improvements. Realistically speaking, all failures cannot be eliminated from a design. So another goal for reliability engineering is to identify the most likely failures and then identify appropriate actions of the effects of these failures. The goal always needs to be able to identify the potential reliability problems as early as possible in the product life cycle. While it may never be too late to improve the reliability of a product, changes to a design are orders of magnitude less expensive in the early part of a design phase rather than the product is manufactured and in service. Why is it important? There are a number of reasons why reliability is an important product attribute. And these includes reputation. A company's reputation is very closely related to the reliability of its product. The more reliable a product is, the more likely the company is to have a favorable reputation. Customer satisfaction. While a reliable product may not dramatically affect customer satisfaction in a positive manner, a non-reliable product will negatively affect customer satisfaction severely. Thus, high reliability is a mandatory requirement for customer satisfaction. Warranty cost. If a product fails to perform its function within the warranty period, the replacement and repair costs will negatively affect profits as well as gain unwanted positive attention. Introducing reliability analysis is an important step in taking corrective action, ultimately leading to a product that is more reliable. Repeat business. A concentrated effort towards improved reliability shows existing customers that a manufacturer is serious about its product and committed to customer satisfaction. This type of attitude has a positive impact on future business. Cost analysis. Manufacturers may take reliability data and combine it with other cost information to illustrate the cost effectiveness of their products. This life cycle cost analysis can prove that although the initial cost of a product might be higher, the overall lifetime cost is lower than that of the competitors because their product requires fewer repairs or less maintenance. Customer requirements. Many customers in today's market demand that their suppliers have an effective reliability program. These customers have learned that the benefits of reliability analysis from experience. Competitive advantage. Many companies will publish their predictive reliability numbers to help gain an advantage over their competitors who either do not publish the numbers or have lower numbers. You guys might be wondering, why reliability? Why hard drives? Well, have you guys heard the saying, behind every great man is a great woman? Well, you guys guessed it. Behind every computer is a hard drive. And hard drives are extremely important in today's world. They are a crucial part in our daily activities. Hence, the reliability of failure rates of hard drives is investigated in this project.
Hello class, my name is Reggie Swimmer and I'll be talking to you about the hard drive that we chose and how we got down to our calculations while in Excel. First we chose four brands. Along with that came 7 storage sizes that correspond to these brands. Then we went on to getting information from Backblaze.com for Q1 being from January to March of 2016. And from there we took the Excel, we put all that stuff into our Excel chart, and then we calculated a standard deviation of the failure rate. Even though our failure rates are close to our failures due to some hard drives being exactly the same and having 0 failures while some have like 10 failures. And that could be the same total for Q2 being from April to June, where like some terabytes have like, some hard drives have like high failure rates while ones have like 0 or like 1. Along with Q3 being from July to September, there's many drive failures from 278 to like 0. And from that data we got from Backblaze.com, we put it into a best and worst table where the best we are assuming to be HGST being at 99.83% uptime, where the worst being WDC being at 98.93% uptime. We are assuming from that chart that those two are the best and worst. Next time we made a pie chart of the number of devices we use to measure it, and that we with Seagate being at 60% and GST being at 37%. And then our next chart we did was on all the terabyte sizes, and the best would be 8 terabytes at 99.7%, and the worst would be at 5 terabytes being at 99.23% for the uptime. But these are our sample stuff that we found, and we're going to be going on to the next calculations part and seeing if these are actually true and if they're the best and the worst. Along with that, we also did another pie chart on data composition of the sizes, and we saw that 4 terabytes, there's 78% of the data we have that there's 4 terabytes in them. Then from there, these are the equations that we use to calculate the variances, being that if variances being equal to each other, we use the equations on the left, and if the variance being not equal, we use the equation on the right. Then with our t's that we calculated from both the equations, we went to our table and found where the t value falls between the percentages, and then with the percentages, we use that as a p. We always assume that v was infinity due to n being so large that we were not able to get it onto this chart.
Hi, my name is Dan Erickson, and I'll be taking off to show you guys the data that we collected with MATLAB and kind of explaining what it means and what conclusions we can draw from it. This first graph that you see here is taking into account the confidence interval at 95%. So these will show the upper and lower limits from the base calculation for failure rate that you saw previously. And this will allow us to kind of depict the worst case scenario. So the lower bound value that you see on this page at 95% confidence is 99.5955% for the 8 terabyte drive. In this process we did for 8 terabytes, 6 terabytes, all the way down to 1.5 terabytes. We also did it for the 4 brands as well. So the MATLAB code that we used to produce the graph can be seen on the next slide here. And that code, as you see here, is basically taking our failure rates, putting them into a matrix, and then running it through a for loop for the 7 different storage types. And then again, that code we repeated for 6 terabytes, as you can see on this slide here, and then repeated again for 5 terabytes, and again we repeated for 4 terabytes, or 3 terabytes, and also for 2 terabytes, and for 1.5 terabytes. And the data that we had for 1.5 terabytes was not sufficient enough. There was no failure rates, and we only tested 45 drives during that time period. So we couldn't produce any graphs and couldn't come to any conclusions on the fail rates for that drive. And this drive here is showing you the brand. So this set of calculations, as you can see on the next slide, is exactly like the calculations for 8 terabytes and 6 terabytes, the storage of the drives. It's just ran through a for loop and used to create graphs that you can see on the next couple slides here. This is for Toshiba, and this is for Seagate drives, and this is for WDC. And after that, we use some MATLAB formulating to create this table, and this basically sums up the data so that we can look at it as a whole. You can see that the 8 terabyte drive has the highest percent of uptime, and even at its lowest confidence interval, it still is considered to be the best drive from this data. Not that we can conclude that yet, but it appears as though that is the best drive. And again, the rates for the 1.5 terabyte drives is at 100% because in the data set that we had, which was very small, there was no failures. Also, you can see on this slide that the uptime percentages by brand is there as well. And we can see that HGST appears to be the best brand. So now how we determined whether or not this data was comparable comes out of chapter 10 of the book. And you can see the 2 equations that we used in the case where the variances are considered to be equal. And in this data set, we chose both cases from out of the book. You'll see that on the next slide as well. But on this slide, I just want to take a side note here that the values came to be pretty much the same, whether we considered sigma to be equal or not. The MATLAB code is just basically those equations that you see from the book and calculated in MATLAB. And the values that we have there, as Reggie explained earlier, is how we obtained the values from the t-table. So this next slide, this will be when the variances are different. So the equation changes slightly. And the reason we did both is because we would not know what the actual variances are. So they could have potentially been the same or potentially not. In this case, the data represented shows that it didn't matter one way or the other. The values were very, very close. So we did that same test for the MATLAB code for all your different drives. So by brand and also by terabyte size. And we compared what we considered to be the best. So here you'll see all the comparisons are with HGST to the other brands. And then for the size of the drives, you'll see 8 terabytes being compared to every other size, because we want to know, is this really the best drive? So what all this data means, you'll see that every single one of them, the null hypothesis was accepted, meaning that the average difference in failure rate was the same, that they're pretty much negligible to one another. So what this means is that we cannot conclude that the data is actually what we assumed it to be just by looking at those numbers. We can't conclude that the 8 terabyte drive is the best, and we can't conclude that HGST is the best. So through all this data, what we found out is that even though it appears to have a clear winner, that is not the case. We couldn't determine 8 terabytes was the best. We couldn't determine HGST was the best. But we also can't determine which one's the worst either. So the data was pretty inconclusive, which is unfortunate because I was pretty excited to do this experiment to find out which drive I wanted to buy myself for Christmas. So just kind of an overlap of data construction here, that we don't have conclusive data.
The challenges that we faced in this project was finding the data, figuring out how to interpret the data, figuring out ways for us to get the data to work with our calculations, also trying to understand the new material that for comparing two sets of data that we just learned in the past few days. And also, getting up early was kind of impossible for 2 of the members who escaped to the Twilight Zone multiple times. The Twilight Zone!